When I was a freelance writer and editor, I wrote a book about heartbreak. And I was reminded of this recently. I like to forget about it. I will explain why in a minute. But I was reminded of this recently because I saw a video that Russell Brand did in the past few weeks. Even when this video goes live, it will still be probably within the past month or so, about how to get over heartbreak, or it said something in the title like "Get Over a Heartbreak." And I always click on things like that whenever I see anything specifically with the words heartbreak. I tend to just click on it. It makes me a little nostalgic, and I like to see what that's all about. So um, if you've seen Russell Brand's style videos, it's basically what he does, and it was about um, this. It sort of dissected this story that was on some national uh, news channel in the United States. It was the intersection, I think, of heartbreak or yeah, it was like heartbreak and science. I remember the science part. I'm not sure if it was the intersection of heartbreak and science, but it was. I think it was the science of breakups. That's what it was, and the text at the bottom of the news story about this woman who had this scientific data about heartbreak. It said breakup boot camp. I could be wrong, but it was something like that. I mean, that might not be the exact thing, but you get the idea. And so Russell Brand was dissecting little clips of this news segment. And the advice that was supposed to be scientific or science-backed advice was very basic advice about getting over anything painful or uncomfortable. It was tips like things take time and feel your emotions and get support, and that's all good and fine. Those, I think, are sort of universal truths that people would agree on. Stuff that's a lot easier said than done. But it reminded me, I was glad I clicked on it because it reminded me of why I wanted to write my book about heartbreak, because I would always see advice like that. And it just seemed sort of, I don't know, I wanted to push the idea further because I was very interested in the concept of heartbreak. What exactly that meant from a philosophical perspective, what exactly that meant. And then my two specific things that I was really interested in was the idea of pain and how we like running away from pain, and why that always seems like the better option than feeling it. But are there benefits to feeling pain and not running away from it? So just questions. And then also how pain, heartbreak, all the things associated with it shape our identities going forward. And I don't think I had heard this phrase at the time, but something that I've been running into over the past few years is the phrase hurt people hurt people. And that was sort of what I was getting at. Our identities change after pain. Our identities change after heartbreak, and they can affect our actions and who we are going forward. So these were just sort of ideas that really fascinated me. I don't know if they come across in the book. I don't think I particularly like the book, but what do I particularly like anyways? So I'm not a good judge of whether or not the book is good. I still sell it on my Revision Fairy website. But yeah, so I was interested in all of that. The video reminded me why I was interested in all of that. But why it was a terrible idea was I didn't have an audience who was interested in heartbreak. I had a website where I wrote about writing and editing tips. I was a freelance writer and editor. And it was not appropriate for me to write a book on the subject of heartbreak and expect anyone to care. And I don't think I expected tons of people to care, But something that I always advise against now, because I've lived through it, and this is an example of living through it, is to go ahead with an idea that you think is good without getting any evidence that someone else will care about it. If your ultimate goal is to release it to people and have them care about it. So, it was great to learn it firsthand, and I think you have to. Because no one could have told me not to write that book. Probably people did tell me not to write the book, and I didn't listen. But what I love about the fact that I didn't listen, and what I love about the fact that I did complete that project, is it really helped me become a better writer. It was another accomplishment because I still did it. I still put the time into it. I still put it out and published it on my site, and I've been selling it for 8 years at this point on my site, and people have bought it. But I'm not on the national news talking about heartbreak because there was no science in it. It was philosophical, even though that science I was talking about didn't really sound terribly scientific. And I didn't have an audience that I had built up who was interested in hearing about that topic from me. But I don't regret it. If you have a topic that you want to write about, that you don't have an audience and you don't regularly speak to an audience who is interested in that topic, if you go ahead and write it, I'm not saying don't write it, but if you go ahead and do that project, it is going to help you in indirect ways, not direct ways. It helped me indirectly because it was a way of showing my work ethic and my discipline, that I could come up with an idea, write it, edit it, do the design, put it out all myself. That's an accomplishment. No one can take that away from me. No one can take that away from anyone if you dedicate time to doing that. So it's an accomplishment that will really help you in indirect ways because it's part of your portfolio. It's not going to help you in direct ways because if you don't have an audience who's interested in the topic that you're writing about, there's probably not going to be that many people who discover your book. You could do a number of marketing things to help expand the book's exposure more than I probably did at the time, but we're all limited by resources and time, really. So I did what I could promotional wise at the time. But again, I didn't have an audience that was specifically interested in that topic. So I was limited. I was limited into the number of people who would care, even though I'd say about a year up to releasing the book, I did start putting out content related to it on my website, but I was still a freelance writer and editor. It wasn't that I had the audience who, I feel like heartbreak is so universal, and I think I gave that too much credit because even though I was writing about writing and editing tips mostly, I was like, well, these people experience heartbreak too. Everyone experiences heartbreak. Of course they're going to be interested in it, but not necessarily interested in hearing what I had to say about it. So a huge takeaway from this story is that start building the type of audience who will benefit from what you want to write about, what you want to talk about, what you want to share. You need to sort of have that match. So when you do release something you've been working really hard on, they're going to want it. And they're going to receive it and be happy that you put it out. And they're going, to gobble it up. They're just, hopefully, there will be a lot of anticipation for what you put out. But that doesn't happen if you just sort of go ahead with your idea because you want to do it. So start building the audience who's interested in the topics that you're interested in, so they will just be really happy and excited when you give them content, and they should inform what you produce at the time. I'm just going to give one more example before I wrap up. When I was starting to put out content related to heartbreak, I could have asked my audience, what would you like from me related to heartbreak? Maybe they would have liked a type of course or a type of workbook. And then I could have adapted my idea to serve them. And then it just would have been a better match, and more people might have been interested in it. So I think that's a really good example about how you can adapt your original idea based on what people actually want. They might not want something sort of like heady and vague and philosophical. They might want something more practical. So yeah, I didn't do it like that. Learn from my mistakes. All right, your turn. Give this video a like or give it a dislike, subscribe, and I'll talk with you soon.